Hi everyone, my name is Susan Grunewald and I'm happy to be joining you virtually for today's Food for Thought session. For those of you who don't know me, I just started this fall semester a new position as an assistant professor of history at Louisiana State University. Prior to that, I spent 3 years as the digital history postdoc at the World History Center at the University of Pittsburgh, and I completed my dissertation at Carnegie Mellon University in 2019. My research investigates German prisoners of war in the Soviet Union, both during and after the Second World War. The Soviet authorities held on to their prisoners until 1956, their German prisoners until 1956, which was 11 years after the end of the Second World War, and 7 years longer than any of the other Allied victor nations held on to their prisoners for. And so my research has really been driven by the question of why did Soviet authorities choose to hold on to these men for so long? And I contend, based on archival sources from the former Soviet Union, memoirs, other documents, newspapers, as well as digital humanities techniques, that it was really due to the destruction of the Second World War. Despite the fact that it was allegedly a victor nation, the Soviet Union truly emerged from the Second World War as a defeated power. It lost 27 million citizens and a quarter of its total physical assets. And so Soviet authorities chose to hold on to any able-bodied German prisoners of war for as long as possible to partake in post-war reconstruction. And I emphasize able-bodied because at the end of the Second World War, Soviet authorities had about 3 million German prisoners. By December of 1945, this number had been reduced to 1.5 million. Now, not all of these 1.5 million men, in the difference between 3 million and 1.5 million, returned home. Many of them did die in Soviet captivity, but the vast majority of them did not. And so it seemed that Soviet authorities were willing to release anybody who was ill or injured to save scarce resources for those who could participate in reconstruction efforts. Indeed, there are documents from Stalin himself assigning prisoners of war to certain labor battalions. And I've used GIS mapping, geographic information system mapping, to map the locations of the German prisoner of war camps across the entirety of the Soviet Union, not just in Siberia. And the majority of the camps, indeed, were even in the European parts of the Soviet Union, including Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltics, the places that had seen the fiercest fighting of the war and needed the reconstruction. So prisoner of war incarceration, at least until 1949, was motivated by the economic concerns of the Second World War. Only later then did they become more so political prisoners who were pawns during the Cold War. I would love to hear from you to discuss this more via email or Twitter. Yeah, thanks.